Yeah, well, my first, paranormal ghost experience, if you will, happened with one of my grandfathers who was a World War II veteran, and it's funny too because both of my experiences had to deal with my mom's dad and my dad's dad. So on this particular one, he was very sick. He only had like a quarter of one lung left capacity, and he actually had a trach in his throat, to
Yeah.
breathe.
Hmm.
And he would smoke cigarettes through that damn hole in his throat. And we are like,
Wow.
man, what are you doing, Grandpa? And he's like, oh, you got to die sometime, kid. I'm like, well, why are you pushing it faster? You know what I mean? So he was a funny guy, but so he was real sick, and I was and this is my mom's dad I'm talking about. So
Hmm.
my dad lived about 30 miles away, and I happened to be visiting him for the summer, and I was around 15, 16 years old, and visiting him, and I woke up in the middle of the night. I sat straight up in the bed, and there's my mom's dad standing at the footrail of my bed, clear as a bell, looked really good, and he'd been sick for a long time. And I kind of did one of these, like rubbing my eyes, going, "What are you doing here, Grandpa?" Because that's how clear he was. He was solid. He
Yeah.
wasn't transparent, and he didn't say nothing. He just smiled, and then he just disappeared in front of my face. So I chalked it up. I was like, "Man, that was a weird dream," and I went back to sleep. But the next day, I woke up, and that dream was still on my mind. That dream, and I called up to my grandma's house and his house to check on him. And my uncle from out of state answered the phone, and I said, "What are you doing there?" And he said, "No one called you yet." And I said, "No. What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, your grandpa died last night. We're coming in for the funeral." And I'm like, "Whoa, wait a minute." So I was kind of taken back because of that experience I had the night before, and I didn't say anything to anyone. So we had the funeral and all that, and about 6 months later, a bunch of us were back at grandma's house eating dinner and visiting her, and this little voice in my head kept saying, "Tell them about the dream. Tell them about the dream." And I was like, "Man, they're gonna think I'm crazy, but whatever." I just came out with it, and I said, "Look, the night Grandpa died, I had this weird dream. Woke up, he's standing at the foot of the bed, and several members of the family's faces went completely white, and they all came out and said we had the exact same dream the night he died."
Fuck.